Welcome to the Reviews Without Remorse podcast with Joe and Dave. Be warned, the discussions in this podcast will contain detailed spoilers. For spoiler-free reviews of newly released films, please check out our channel Reviews Without Remorse on YouTube and VidMe. Enter at your own risk and enjoy the show.
And welcome to the podcast of the free and the home of the brave. I am the star-spangled hero known as David, and with me is the man with the plan himself, Joe.
What's happening, partner?
This is episode 50, and in this show we will discuss Stephen S. DeKnight is rumored to be stepping into the director's chair for Man of Steel 2. Can the Pacific Rim Uprising director fix what ails the troubled character? Joe caught a movie this weekend, and he wants to talk about it. Then, at long last, Joe and I will break down Captain America, the first Avenger.
How does it stack up?
I have been looking forward to this since we started this freaking podcast, actually.
You just have to decide what kind of man you want to grow up to be, Clark. Whoever that man is, he's going to change the world.
It seems that Stephen S. DeKnight, now let's break it down for people. Stephen S. DeKnight has been a screenwriter for several movies. Most recently, the show he might be famous for is the first season of Daredevil. And now he has completed directing the sequel to Pacific Rim Uprising, and it seems he is in line to now direct Man of Steel 2. Now, to give you an idea of who this guy is, first of all, he's our age and he's from Millville, New Jersey, so I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. But, to his credit, he has been a writer, a director, and a producer for things like Buffy the Vampire Slayer TV show, Angel, Smallville, Dollhouse, Spartacus, the first season of Daredevil, and Pacific Rim Uprising. Those are his writing credits. And his directing credits are some episodes of Angel, some episodes of Smallville, Dollhouse, Daredevil, and now Pacific Rim Uprising. And I kind of feel like it says a lot about his results with Pacific Rim Uprising if he is now in the running to take over the Man of Steel.
Okay. It's interesting because I wasn't even sure they were going to go with another Man of Steel at this point, but I guess they are. I guess they're going to try to salvage parts of the DCEU at this point. But, yeah, all right. We'll see what happens. It's one of those, you know what? You throw it up in the air, you see what sticks. I kind of have no thoughts about it either way, so...
You know what the problem is? If we were talking about, oh my God, they got this director for a Marvel movie, we'd be like, ooh, well, this director has done this, and so on and so forth. The problem is the benchmark is so damn low for the DC cinematic universe, save for Wonder Woman, that at this point somebody could just, film themselves taking a poop, and they'd be like, that's instantly better than Justice League.
Yeah, well, I mean, at this point, it does sort of feel like damaged goods. Like, I don't know, like, is it even really worth even pushing this further? I mean, I guess the only thing you have to ask yourself is Henry Cavill good enough to stay and try to salvage what we've got, try to salvage him in the part and the rest of the crew? I guess. I don't see why not, I suppose.
You know what? I like Stephen DeKnight. I think he's done a couple of really good things. I know he can write. I know he can, like, bookend a story. Like, he could tell a beginning, a middle, and an end. So he's got some chops behind him. So, yeah, it kind of does fill me with a little bit of hope. Not a lot, just a little bit of hope. Honestly, I think that the DC Cinematic Universe needs to kind of pull itself away from the Snyder way of doing things and semi-reinvent itself, similar to how Movie Bob discussed it and how we've discussed a couple of times now.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, I guess at this point, anything is got to be better than what we've gotten. So it can, maybe that's the way to look at it. I feel like I wish I could conjure up more passion to even talk about it. I mean, again, after the kind of, after everything and now after Justice League, it's like, just whatever, guys. You have fun. I don't know. Like I said, maybe it's a good thing, and you're right. Maybe a step in a different direction has got to be better. So let's see. Let's hope.
At this point, all we can do is hope, man. All we can do is hope.
Hello? Mr. Hennessy. Tennessee. He's here again.
That's 5 days in a row now. What does he want?
His daughter was killed in the bombing.
Mr. Hennessy, please find out the names of the bombers.
I work for the government, not terrorists.
But you did see a movie that you and I, when we saw the trailer, were very curious about. And I haven't seen it yet, so I'm going to be very curious to hear your take on The Foreigner.
Yeah, and I tell you, you're right. When the trailer came out, everybody was sort of doing cartwheels and going, "Oh my God, this is great!" Then it came out, and it was like, "No, yeah, it's fine, it's fine." And
Yeah.
I guess everybody kind of, it was not 2 hours of Jackie Chan kicking ass. It was a very serious, thought-provoking, thoughtful, smart thriller, and I was really impressed with it.
It's kind of a testament to Jackie Chan that, in a way, I mean, this is kind of like the Orville if you think about it. You think Jackie Chan, and you're thinking over-the-top, action-packed, Jackie Chan doing all of his stunts. And this kind of was a departure from him, similar to how the Orville, everybody was expecting, Family Guy in space, and yet they actually took a different angle to try to make it more grounded.
Yeah.
This movie, I think, maybe put people off because, wait a minute, where's the fun-loving Jackie Chan? And it's like, no, you don't understand. When I saw the trailer, that's exactly what intrigued me about it, because I said, this is not fun-loving Jackie Chan. This is Jackie Chan, the frickin' actor who just happens to do a handful of stunts.
Yeah. No, it's true, and actually, I mean, there are some good action scenes in it, and he delivers. He delivers like he does. But again, I mean, he's not young anymore. They even say in the film, they're like, "You guys can't even take a 60-year-old Chinaman." It's like, I mean, the guy, he's getting up there, but he's still doing his thing. But no, it's a thoughtful. It's one of those, like when I raved about Atomic Blonde, and I said, if they could just keep one foot on the ground, go over the top all you want, but if you can kind of ground it a little bit, this does that. It really hit the marks, and it was again very thoughtful piece. And not everybody is innocent, not everybody is whatever. Really, really well done. So, hardcore in some parts too.
So a depth like, say, like almost like one of Clancy's techno thrillers type things.
That would be a very safe comparison. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, very, very grounded, very very smart film.
We actually, at my work one night, because I work overnights, and when things get really slow and there's nothing to do, they'll throw a movie on. And we actually started watching it, and we basically agreed immediately. It's like, you know what? We can't watch this. This isn't... We want to watch movies where it's like constant action, you don't have to think about it. But within like the first 10 minutes, you realize, no, this is more than that. The action is in addition to a depth of story that you need to focus on.
Yeah. Agreed. I mean, again, and you're talking about this is a drama, a crime drama, or about the occupation of Northern Ireland, which has been going on for decades, and it's one of those things where, again, in the modern days, it's funny, like the IRA, the Irish Republican Army, was always basically a terrorist group, but not the kind of terrorist group where we have today, where they would literally just sort of drop bombs in mailboxes, call it, and say we dropped a bomb in there, get your people out of there, and it was kind of it was a more, for lack of a better way to say it, it was sort of a civilized version of terrorism. Like I said, it wasn't mass murder. The way it is today.
Such a British way of doing it. Hello, yes, we've placed a bomb in Harrods. I hope you don't mind.
Right.
If you could get people out of there, we're going to blow it up in about 5 minutes. Have a nice night.
Yeah. So it's a weird situation because again, you have some members of Northern Ireland who are, they're in bed with the British, or or they have they hold public office that the British officially run. So you have people whose loyalties are sort of all over the place, and so it's a touchy, weird situation over there. And this really plays that. It really gets into that. So like I said, it was much smarter than I was expecting.
The original novel that it's based on, and it was called The Chinaman, was actually released during like the height of the IRA, during like the late 70s up to the mid 80s.
Yeah.
Now, do you think that pushing it forward into a modern setting dilutes some of the power that they could have gotten if they had set it back when the IRA was really at the top of its power?
I tell you what, it probably makes it a little bit more enjoyable because it does have a little distance. I mean, essentially what you're doing and what a lot of films will do, rather than actually point fingers at countries and whatever, They usually say, "Oh, there's it's some radical offshoot of," and this does that. It's a radical resurgence offshoot of, not associated with the main IRA, but their own thing. So you have a little detachment, but still the stories and the themes are there.
Okay.
So there's probably enough distance in it that you can enjoy it more than if it was kind of a genuine, up to the minute, very topical sort of a problem story.
All right, I ain't mad at that. I can get behind that. All right, I'll check it out.
Yeah, I definitely recommend it. In fact, frankly, had I seen it last year, it could very well have bumped something off my top 10.
I was just about to ask you that. I was just about to ask you that.
Rogers, Steven.
Just give me a chance.
Sorry, son.
I'm saving your life.
General Patton has said that wars are fought with weapons, but they are won by men.
You just don't know when to give up, do you?
I could do this all day.
Steve Rogers, a rejected military soldier, transforms into Captain America after taking a dose of a super soldier serum. But being Captain America comes at a price as he attempts to take down a warmonger and a terrorist organization. Written by Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely, based on characters created by Joe Simon and Jack Kirby, directed by Joe Johnston. Ladies and gentlemen, Captain America, the First Avenger. Okay, now, one of the things I want the audience to know is I texted Joe earlier today as we were going over when we were starting, everything like that, and one of the things I said to him is, like, do me a favor, try to keep me in check, because the Captain America movies I will pretty much gush over. I am an unabashed fan of Captain America, and I love the translation that they did for him. Love it to death. So I will do my best to try to still remain objective, folks, but I'm not promising anything. Come on, Joe. I've lifted up my skirt. Might as well tell me your thoughts.
Okay, here's some initial thoughts. Going in and watching this one again. Haven't actually sat and watched it all the way through in a long time. And I remember feeling like, okay, this is going to be the one we have to sort of sit through before we start to get to the fun stuff, like, Civil War and everything. These were the early days of the MCU. And I think even as they were making Captain America, I think there was probably a little nervousness, like, oh, well, we have to do this one as a period piece because that's when it starts. We really should do that. We shouldn't fast forward to the fun stuff, yada, yada, yada. I watched it again, and I was really surprised how much I thought it actually does fit with the overall MCU. I really wasn't expecting that. I kind of for some reason, I really sort of just remembered a lot of the periods. And again, I love the fact that it is a period film. That is not a detraction at all. But again, you're starting sort of slowly to build up to whatever. I enjoyed it much more than I was expecting. I really did like it again. And again, I was surprised at how it did mesh with the MCU of today. Love Captain America. I love Captain America, the character, even just as an ideal, because again, I'm always talking about, you don't have to do Superman dour. You don't have to do, we don't need grumbling superheroes. Some of them are just, they're just heroic. And this is Captain America. Unflinching, unapologetic, and they really do him right in this. And I remember I wasn't even crazy about the casting of Chris Evans back then, but I tell you what, he's nailed it since. He's just been terrific as Captain America, and I really really enjoyed this. Memory lane's not that long ago, but hey, I really enjoyed this little walk back in time.
The thing about this movie that I was noticing as I was watching it, and believe me, I've watched this movie several times, not just out of personal reasons, but also because of my son wanting to watch it again. Mm-hmm. It's kind of amazing the threads that it drops in this first one. And it doesn't do it in a way of, hey, look at this, zoom in right on this. You see this? Pay attention to this. We're going to make that pay off later. No, just the subtle things, even getting rid of Bucky, the way Bucky dies. Very different from the comic. And yes, there are a lot of differences in the comic, and let's see, hopefully we have time to discuss that. But even that, there were subtle little hints. You see him when Cap rescues him for the first time. You see him; he's on a table and he's kind of dazed, and you think to yourself, God, they must have been torturing him. Mm-hmm. And then you come to find out that pays off in The Winter Soldier.
Yeah, he is right. That grogginess does look a little familiar already.
Oh yeah, I mean, just if you watch the remainder of the trilogy and then go back to the first Avenger, it's like it elevates the first movie because you realize, holy smokes, they really did. They were the man with the plan.
Yeah.
And this is one of those rare instances where all three movies, now they weren't directed by the same people, but all three Cap movies were written by the same two people. McFeely and Marcus wrote this, and they wrote the remaining two.
Really?
And I think that, amongst anything else, is the reason why I feel the Cap trilogy is the best trilogy in the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe.
You know what? I might agree with you there. Yeah, it does not have the showboatiness, if that's a word. It's not as flashy as the Iron Mans and the Thors. But you know what? I'll give it to you. I think as a solid, consistent trilogy, you know what? You might be right.
I think as we go through, I'll be able to prove that as we go. But sticking to the first Avenger, let's talk about some of the comic differences because the comic fans are going to know. First of all, biggest difference, Bucky was not there from the beginning with Cap. Bucky came later, and Bucky was a young teenage boy, which was the thing you do back in the 40s. You had your big superhero and his, pesky or, trusty young sidekick. Yeah. But in this movie, they changed that up, and they made it older. Now, at first I was a little, I don't know how I felt about that. But you know what was great? You want to talk about casting. Okay, the first time you see Cap and Bucky together, it's CGI. It's CGI Chris Evans, where he's on this little person. His face is basically CGI'd onto a man who's shorter than him.
Little skinny guy, yeah.
And it's in the alley. He just had the crap beat out of him by that bully guy, and Bucky just kicked him out. And literally 4 seconds into "You're right, Steve," it's like that's a lifelong friendship right there. Immediately, great casting on parts, not only of good actors, but of actors who obviously like each other enough that their friendship showed on the screen. And that's important for the character of Bucky. Right up until when they go to the Stark showcase and everything like that. The two of them, they're just palling around, clowning around. What's your benchmark? Your benchmark has always been much... I got their friendship better than I got Obi-Wan and Anakin's friendship from the prequels.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree with that. I liked. I think you're right. Had they tried to go down the road where he's Captain America and now suddenly he's got the Robin to his Batman all of a sudden shows up and they try to wedge him in, would not have worked as well. This works pretty well, and again, not only is it, it's also that friendship that really becomes his first call to action when he hears that his regiment is the one that got captured or whatever. So that causes him to take his first leap into battle as Captain America, basically. And I tell you, I remember when they were first talking about Captain America, the first picture I saw, it was actually in a newspaper. For some reason, I'm thumbing through a newspaper, and there's the first picture I see from the set of Captain America. Now, you'd think I would see something online. You'd think I would see... It just happened to be in a newspaper, and it was him on the motorcycle. With the leather, again, it's like the leather jacket with the, and I was like, wow, I really got excited by it because I thought that looks to me like classic World War II era Captain America. And I was really impressed with the way they were going with that. And I really, really loved how they do the tribute to the original classic costume. Yeah, the original shield that is shaped more like like the shield and everything. I really thought the nods they do to that stuff is spot on. Again, his first outfit is really like it's the goofy onstage outfit, but he's got a leather jacket over it, so you just sort of see the star. He's got the helmet with the A on it. They just sort of got everything just right. And I was really happy with that. I really thought they did a great job with that.
You see, folks, it just goes to prove. Get the costume right, and Joe's on board.
I tell you, I'm an easy lay. I really am. You get the costume, you get that costume right, and I'm good.
I am a little bit more forgiving when it comes to the costume. I look for the character. And one of the hardest things about Cap is how do you get the person who truly believes in the ideals of freedom and not have him come across as preachy? And,
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? There's such a thin line between that, God bless America, and, just somebody who truly loves and appreciates the values. And even before he becomes Cap, he's showing those values. When he's trying to explain to Bucky why he wants to get into the Army.
Yeah.
What right do I have to sit on the side when everybody else is putting their life on the line? It's like you almost want to cry. It's like, I know, Cap. I know you're not Cap yet, but you're so Cap.
Yeah, totally.
And any other actor could. I think Chris Evans is like a 5.5, to be honest with you. When I first heard Chris Evans was cast, like the Human Torch from the Fantastic Four movies.
Right. Exactly.
Like,
yeah.
I don't know about that. I mean, and kind of funny now that Disney owns the Fantastic Four movies again. I wonder if there'll be a callback to that. But that aside, I was kind of leery. I was like, I don't know. I mean, I haven't really seen this guy in much else. I've seen him in 1 or 2 rom-coms, and it's like, I guess I don't know. He kind of looks the part, so maybe that's really all I need. No, he actually, he doesn't. His delivery is spot on. He's not condescending. He's not preaching. He's speaking from the heart. It's not like he's trying to say, you're wrong, I'm right. It's like, no, this is how I feel.
Yeah.
And it means something to me. And it means something deeper to me than anything else. It's like such a wonderful inspiration, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
And that's what Captain America evolved into in the comics.
Yeah.
Check out, if you've not seen it, there's an animated series called Avengers, Earth's Mightiest Heroes. And it came out shortly after the Iron Man movies came out, so it kind of plays a little bit in that type of universe that was set up through the Iron Man movies. But the portrayal of Captain America in that is brilliant and beautiful. If you ever watch it, you'll be like, "Oh my God, that's just outstanding!" And Evans does it. He pulls it off, and it's not an easy thing to pull off.
I totally agree too, and I feel 100%. I remember feeling like this is the one that they were going to be very nervous putting on screen because all our superheroes have to be cynical and nobody can be that great. And it's why, not to beat a dead horse, but again, I have always said about the Superman things, why they think they can't do a more pure version of Superman. They think no, every time they try it, Captain America, Wonder Woman, it always works. I mean, it's got a track record, for crying out loud. I don't know what they're nervous about, but yeah, I mean, you'd think they would be a little nervous doing just a good-hearted, pure version of Captain America. But boy, I mean, again, it pays off. That's exactly right. It's exactly what you need. And again, he's not to skip ahead, but of course, when he's bouncing off a guy like Tony Stark or he's playing against Thor or whatever else, it makes for a good dynamic. So yeah, I mean, I think they really did nail him here, and again, the casting is terrific. And by the way, the CGI when he's the little skinny guy, boy, is that spot on.
Some of the best CGI. I mean, I remember hearing people saying that, wow, they really did a lot of work on him to make him look muscular from being so short. It's like, no, it's the other way around.
Right, exactly, yeah.
The serum amplifies everything that is inside, so good becomes great, bad becomes worse. This is why you were chosen. Whatever happens tomorrow, you must promise me one thing. That you will stay who you are. Not a perfect soldier, but a good man.
Again, going back to the writers, who, through the character of Abraham Erskine, played by the wonderful Stanley Tucci, who the night before where he's going to get the injection of the super soldier serum, they're having some schnapps, and of course he can't have schnapps because he's having a procedure in the morning, and he says to him with his little fingers, he points to him, he says, just remain a good person.
Yeah,
and that is kind of the theme of all the Captain America movies, that no matter what adversity comes his way, he just says, no, I'm going to remain a good person.
Right.
As Erskine, because Because, I mean, if Cap went off the rails, like really went off the rails, I don't know, man. I think maybe the Hulk and maybe Thor could stop him. I think that Cap would be a very formidable opponent, regardless of the fact that all he is like super strong.
Possibly, but yeah,
no.
I agree with everything you're saying about his non-compromising ways, and then again, it's almost like I said real quick about the Foreigner, that when you deal with these not so black and white issues, later on when you get the Sokovia Accords and things like that, it's very easy to bend and say, well, all right, I guess this is the greater good. I guess it's the lesser of two evils. Well, no, he's a non-compromising person, and it's just there's a reason why that works.
It harkens back to a simpler time. I will absolutely say that. And sometimes, you know what? One of my favorite things to read, I love reading stories about people who just give for no reason. Yeah. They don't do it for the glory. They don't do it for anything. They see a fellow human being in pain and they give.
Yeah.
Could be anything. Could be money. Could be a ride. It doesn't matter. Just something nice like that. No big deal. No, that's Cap to me. That's the embodiment of Cap to me. Cap is that person that will be there for you when you're at your lowest, and he doesn't want thanks. He does it because inside he believes this is the right thing to do.
Totally agree. Yeah.
So let's go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I tell you, I know I kind of already harped on this, but I still go back to the idea that I love how they did. I love the idea of him performing on stage and shocking old Adolf on the jaw and all that stuff. I mean, again, that was
different cities.
Oh my God, it was great. Yeah, and then I love the idea that they actually do comic books. See, it's interesting, kind of like Logan. They're alluding to the fact that there are comic books in this world, and I thought that was interesting too. Comic books, trading cards, whatever. But I really liked all that, and again, I thought that was a great groundwork for what he ends up becoming. And incidentally, I also love it. I loved it when they fast forward to then he's doing this for the real troops, and it's
the troops are like, yeah, whatever.
Crickets. He's doing his shtick, and it's like you hear crickets chirping, and they're like, "Get out of here, twinkle toes! Bring on the girls, whatever." And I remember watching it the first time I saw it, thinking like, "Boy, how is he going to come back from that?" It was almost like I didn't exactly expect that. That caught me by surprise. So again, the transition from there to when he actually does win people over by actually doing what he was made to do, was terrific.
It's so well paced. I mean,
yes.
Okay, let's call a spade for a second here. It is not the greatest plot ever. It's a very simplistic plot. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with a simplistic plot, but it is literally here's Cap, here's his equal opposite. In the Red Skull, which, by the way, Hugo Weaving and that makeup.
Perfect.
Can we give some props?
Is that not spot on casting or what?
Oh my God! Not just spot on casting, but God, the makeup is just incredible.
Yeah.
Every time. I mean, okay, fine. I know that they CGI'd the nose out to give it that hollow look and everything like that, and that's fine. That's an example of using practical effects with CGI effects in its proper format.
Right.
But he just right out of the damn comic, and not even like you would think like, we can't make him like bright red. That would be silly. Let's kind of dull the red a little bit. Nope, made it bright red.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was great. That was awesome. I remember again wondering if they were gonna go through with it on the way in there. See, again, that they really didn't hold back. I mean, that was the thing too. This again the black leather costumes of the X-Men. They don't really have the courage to go and do the comic as it is and to do costumes, do whatever. Boom, Red Skull with a big old red face. Just and again, it pays off. It works.
And granted, it's hard to even think about this right now, but this was the beginning of the MCU. This was literally like let's see, you had Iron Man at this point, you'd had Iron Man 2, you'd had the Incredible Hulk, and you'd had Thor. This was the fifth movie in this entire series. And the one that they were most worried about, because they wanted it not just to be an American hero, they wanted him to be a hero that would be appreciated all around the world.
Yeah.
So
right, exactly, right, and And you have to figure this is the moment in the MCU when the people are sort of looking at each other going, so we're really going to do this, right? We're really going to do this? So that you had to do Thor and Captain America. I mean, Iron Man just happened, and it just worked. And it was like, wow, they really hit gold with that. And then they're like, we should do this, we should do that. We're going to do the Avengers. Yeah, all of a sudden, yeah, great. And then, then the rubber hits the road. They look at like we're really going to do this, right? Captain America? All right, well, here we go. But yeah, yeah, and you're right. It hits a level of appeal that I just great.
I think it transcends. I mean, I have a friend, an English friend, who thought the movie was wonderful, and it's nice. It's nice that you can take a character and it's like, okay, yeah, fine. His name kind of makes him sound like Mr. America and so on and so forth, and just know that it's not simply, yes, America is his home country. Yes, America is the country he will defend, but he is the defender not of just his country. He is the defender of freedom everywhere. And that translates. That easily translates if you get it right. And McFeely and Marcus, they get it right. They get this character.
Right, yeah.
Oh my God, do they get this character.
Sure. Absolutely.
There is a reason why these guys are writing the Infinity War movies. So, and this trilogy is it. But we have a large cast of characters. We've already gushed over Mr. Chris Evans. We've already had nice little moments with Mr. Hugo Weaving. But we also have our Sebastian Stan as Mr. James Buchanan Barnes, who, honestly, he doesn't get a lot in this movie. He doesn't really start to shine until the later movies, I think.
Right.
As a character or as an actor.
Yeah. You're right. He's easily kind of missed in this one. But no, he really does. He was a good find. He was a good choice for Bucky.
Agreed. You have the lovely Haley Atwell, who, Haley, marry me. The lovely Haley Atwell as Peggy Carter. Unfortunately, I felt her character got a little shortchanged in this movie. They made her be the tough woman and everything like that, and no nonsense, and I appreciated that, but she kind of, I don't know if it was the actress or the way that it was written, but whatever it was, there was something very paint by numbers about her character. Like, she just existed. I don't think she really did anything to stand out more than she. I love the character, don't get me wrong, I love the character, I watched the TV show, I thought it was a great TV show, but I kind of feel like here that they weren't really 100% sure exactly how to do with her. I mean, yeah, okay, fine. Her character is anachronistic in the respect that in the 40s, a woman being high up in a secret organization that's trusted and brought into the inner circle, that's, not necessarily probably something that happened very often. I mean, we saw a kind of a glimpse of what that would have more realistically had been like in Wonder Woman, for example.
Yeah, very true. Absolutely. Here's a question, because I don't know. Was Peggy Carter from the comics?
Mm-hmm. That was his first love.
Okay.
And, and then he wound up dating her grandniece.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, it's funny.
We'll get to that.
Yeah. I did wonder, when they brought her back in the second one, and she's like a little old lady, with a bad memory. I remember thinking that was probably like a little. I don't know if I would have gone down that road. I remember thinking I probably would have killed her off before the second one, because I thought that scene with the two of them was a little awkward.
You know what? I'm gonna disagree for now, and it's something we will absolutely positively discuss when we hit Winter Soldier next week.
Yeah.
Because I actually thought that aside from the smallness of her character, I thought that her and Chris Evans worked very well. And when the movie ends with him looking forlornly around the streets of New York saying, I had a date, I believed he was heartbroken. I believed it.
I do too. I think she was really good. Again, I'm not, the fact that I think they probably could have just not done that part later on. No, I thought she was pretty spot on. If they made her too strong, too able and powerful, like you said, I don't think it would have fit the time and place.
Right.
So again, I think she was spot on, smart. I don't recall why she was British or why the British just happened to be part of this situation. But
I think that was to imply that it was an international organization, less so than just anything else.
Right. Okay.
Because, I mean, eventually when he gets his Howling Commandos together, they're all from different armies. There's some French, there's some British, there's American,
Yeah.
So I think that's really all it was supposed to be.
Yeah. And incidentally, those guys were pretty well put together too. I like the guy with the big old mustache and hat. Like he was like he looked right out of the comics, right off of the pages of the comics from back then.
Oh my God. That is the wonderful, wonderful Neil McDonough as Timothy Dum Dum Dugan.
There you
One
go.
of my favorite members of the Howling Commandos. And who in the comics was still a member of S.H.I.E.L.D. even today.
Is that right? Okay.
Well, it turned out he was a life model decoy, but yeah, Nick Fury made a life model decoy and gave him Dum Dum Dugan's memories.
Oh, that's funny. Okay.
Yeah. Twisted, but funny.
Well.
Yeah, Neil McDonough, he was just freaking awesome. You know, you can't really complain about a cast that includes Hugo Weaving, Tommy Lee Jones, freaking Stanley Tucci, of course, the wonderful Samuel L. Jackson for the 10 seconds he's in it.
Yeah.
And to me, one of my favorite little underdog parts that not many people notice, but I just got such a charge out of him, is Toby Jones as Dr. Armand Zola.
Yeah, I liked him in this. Yeah, he was very good.
He just, there was just something real about his, there's that point in the movie where Bucky's just died and they've just captured Zola, and in comes Tommy Lee Jones as Colonel Chester Phillips. He comes in with a steak, potatoes, and broccoli, and this is in the height of World War II, for God's sakes. That's he just brought gold into that room.
Yeah.
You know. And they actually do describe it. And here's Armand Zola, and it's I don't like meat. And it's what? It's how?
See, you know what's funny? I remember reading that. I read that scene a little differently, but you could be right. I remember reading that as him being worried that they would have drugged or done something to the food to get him to talk. And he was like, I don't eat meat. And that was his way of getting out of eating it. And then as Tommy Lee Jones, spins it around, starts chomping down on that steak, all of a sudden I was looking at it going, oh, crap. Maybe.
Whichever way you take it, it was just a nice little beat the way that he handled it.
Yeah.
And so many actors, the whole point of that scene was to get him to tell them the information by making him believe that they had already sent out that he had told him the information.
Yeah, right.
And just it's amazing to watch Toby Jones's eyes go from being this smug, whatever, there's not much you can do to me, to all of a sudden pale.
Right,
and,
right.
His eyes are vibrating in fear.
Yeah.
Just so that's what I mean about a really good actor. That's somebody. It's a small part. It's such a small part, almost insignificant if you think about it. He is the guy that builds the weapons.
Yeah,
that's really all it is. But man, he just injects a personality into the character of Zola that I loved. I adored. Every time he was on screen, I was riveted. When Skull is blowing up the place because Cap's come to rescue everybody, and he realizes, well, this is lost. And there's Skull, and you gotta love Weaving as well. He's like, we lost. Click, 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 click. Just casually hitting the self-destruct button, it was another day, and he just made toast or something like that.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
And in comes Zola, and he's you could see his dreams blowing up in front of his face as he's pressing each button.
Yes.
And that's before he even opens his mouth.
Yeah.
How freaking awesome is that?
Right, yeah. No, he was terrific. The other one that you just briefly mentioned, but I think really does carry a lot of the weight, I thought Tommy Lee Jones was phenomenal in this.
Yes, it might be one of my favorite parts he's done since probably The Fugitive.
Oh my God, is he fun? I mean, he's got some great lines. He's really funny in this, and again, it's the way he plays it was terrific.
You're not really thinking about picking Rogers, are you?
I wasn't just thinking about it. It's a clear choice.
When you brought a 90-pound asthmatic onto my army base, I let it slide. I thought, what the hell? Maybe it'd be useful to you, like a gerbil. Never thought you'd pick him.
Very typical of the time frame for a colonel like that.
Yeah, right. You need a guy like Tommy Lee Jones to sort of be that kind of guy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, I love it. I mean, there was some when you brought a 90-pound asthmatic on my field, yada yada yada, and then he's like,
it's like I allowed it. I figured.
he's like, I can't even look at it. It makes me want to cry.
Oh God! And again, you got to wonder just how the hell did Marvel get these many amazing actors?
Yeah.
these are people that are all on the top of their grade, as far as I'm concerned.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Stanley Tucci, he's very much celebrated as a fine actor. Tommy Lee Jones, Oscar winner many times. You know, Hugo Weaving. Hugo Weaving, as far as I'm concerned, you put him in. Here's a guy. Let me explain just how talented of an actor Hugo Weaving is, ladies and gentlemen. If you don't already know, I'm sure you already do, but I'm just going to explain how amazing this guy is. Did you ever see V for Vendetta?
Yes, but I can't remember a lot of it. But yeah,
that's okay. You don't have to remember a lot of it. All you have to remember is this: Hugo Weaving acted the entire movie wearing that mask throughout the entire movie.
Yeah.
Okay? And he owned the part of V. He never showed his face. He just moved and spoke. And that's a freaking actor for you, ladies and gentlemen. You can like or dislike that movie as much as you want, but there is no denying that Hugo Weaving as V just exuded such charm and without his eyes. And how amazing is that he just did it all with nothing more than just body movements and his voice.
You really gonna do this now?
There are men laying down their lives. I got no right to do any less than them.
I can offer you a chance.
Our goal is to create a new breed of super soldiers.
So here's a thought. Middle, second third of the film, I kind of felt like there is a point where it does kind of slow down or something. There's like a lull that kind of happens about like 3/4 of the way through, and I can't put my finger on what that is. And there's, you know, one of the original complaints I had. Now I didn't mind it as much when I watched it this time, but when I saw it the first time, I did sort of have a complaint. Like, I would have preferred it had they not gone for the blue laser beams, and I remember feeling like that was kind of. I almost felt like that was in a way where the filmmakers get cold feet, where we got to have something flashy in this. We got to have something that's like modern and a little more showy than just, we can't just do a straight war movie and call it a superhero film. You need something that's kind of over the top. And I remember kind of feeling back then, like, well, the Tesseract, and now we're going to have like laser fights and whatever. Now that I saw it again, I didn't mind it as much. And again, I did feel that it did jive with today's Marvel Cinematic Universe, frankly. In fact, I'll even fast forward a little bit. When the Red Skull goes up in smoke, when he actually grabs the Tesseract with his bare hand and he starts to burn up, and the room lights up, and when you look up, you could see like space, you know? And I remember thinking like, wow, you know, I mean, when I first saw this, I thought I kind of just blew it off as an unnecessary shot. I look at it now, and I'm saying, wow, that looks like I feel like the Guardians of the Galaxy are going to fly right past in that shot, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it almost feels like the connection with the Marvel Universe of today. So I totally bought it. And I'll do you one better. I heard, like, some just little online speculation about, like, do you think they'll ever bring back the Red Skull? And I remember thinking, like, if they ever did, like, a Secret Wars or that kind of thing, would they ever just sort of throw him in? You know what? Watching how he sort of gets sucked out into the void. I mean, it's sort of, when you first saw it, you just thought he's dead. But really, he kind of gets sucked out into this other universe, and he sort of makes a mention earlier about how he has seen the future. He's seen this because of the technology, and you know what? I would not doubt if he saw him again someday.
It wouldn't surprise me. Here's another little thought for you. I mean, I agree with you that at the 3/4 mark, it seems like that it's that big montage of him taking out the Hydra bases.
Yeah,
that really does it. I mean, a part of me appreciates. Okay, they're trying to show Cap in action, and they do kind of give some little action beats to it. But I kind of felt like, you know what? Why not just show one full battle of them taking a base and then montage it after? I feel like we still don't know enough about Cap and his powers at this point. I know because I'm a fan, but it just kind of felt like, you know, okay, we have to show that Cap can throw his shield. Check. Okay, we have to show that Cap's punches are really hard. Check. We have to show Cap, you know, all these things. We have to show Bucky with a sniper rifle. Check. That's what it kind of felt like to me. Less like a needed portion of the plot, more like, okay, we have to do these things, so let's just throw them in here in a montage.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess that's probably the way to do it. I remember, like I said, I remember just watching it the first time, and then I felt it again here. That it just kind of, there's a little lull that happens right there, and I can't really put my finger on it. And really, it's not a big deal because that's really the beginning of the finale. I think is like that's the beginning of the final confrontation with the Red Skull and everything. Again, it's probably just the only little funny little beat that happens.
But here's an interesting theory. As we're now aware, or at least as I hope most people are aware, we know that the Tesseract is nothing but a casing for the Space Stone.
Right. Okay.
So here's my question. Did he really disintegrate all those people, or did that blue laser send them someplace?
That's an interesting question. I don't know. It's a good point.
You know? I've been thinking about that a lot. Here's a way you bring back Red Skull. What if every person that he shot and himself all wound up in the same place, and he comes back with a frickin' army?
Okay.
It's possible. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it is in the realm.
I can see it. I could see it easier with the Red Skull because I kind of felt like they really did sort of. I mean, that like it's like a portal opens and he gets sucked up into it. Really, the other guys not so much. But I'll grant you. I mean, it's the way they kind of disintegrate. It does look like they could just be vanishing into some other. I'll grant you.
Yeah, it's a long shot. It's probably never actually going to pay off, but there's this part of me that says to myself, somewhere Red Skull has an army, and he's coming back somehow, and maybe he runs into the Beyonder, and that's how he gets back.
There you go. I can see that. I definitely feel like if we see him again, it's probably because we're also going to see the Beyonder, but...
Oh, I hope so. I really hope that if that Phase 4 is Secret Wars, that would make me so happy.
Yeah.
All right, so we've covered the actors, we've covered the writers. We haven't really covered the director a lot because this was his only Captain America movie and then he was gone, Mr. Joe Johnston.
Yeah, and he's got a lot under his belt. I thought he was a good guy to have for this. I did feel, and I'm going to take a guess that this is part of the director. There were a lot of scenes in here that were starting to get just a little... special effecty, I guess. A lot of these big cars, big spaceship-y looking things. I mean, again, his car looks like it's 30 feet long. And it was a little bit of it was starting to get a little Roger Rabbit at one point. Like, I mean, I noticed that the tone they seemed to be going for with a lot of that stuff, it was kind of like a lot of it was very grounded in real wartime feel, but then there was sort of that kind of Sky Captain in the World of Tomorrow.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah. Well, that makes sense. This is the director of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, The Rocketeer, Jumanji.
Yeah.
So those three right there, you can easily see his style throughout the entire flick.
Especially in the Rocketeer is a good one too, because you do sort of see that stylized time period sort of stuff.
Yep. He also directed a couple of Young Indiana Jones TV series, which also adds to his look.
Yeah.
And but he also directed Jurassic Park 3, so we can't give him too much credit.
There you go.
But you know what? I think him like Kenneth Branagh was a safe choice for the initial outing for their respective characters.
Agreed. Yeah. Agreed. I mean, honestly, truthfully, and this almost sounds a little patronizing, but I kind of feel like the fact that he could do that film and just the fact that it does still feel legitimately within the Marvel universe that we have today, that to me sort of says something. I mean, there's a lot to be said for that. Again, I almost feel like that the way I'm saying it almost sounds like the participation trophy, but no, honestly, I mean, it really it was a different kind of a film. It was a period film, and again, the fact that I mean, all of those early... I mean, if you think about it, Thor, the first Captain America should feel different. They should sort of feel like the films that are sort of in the outskirts, and then later they'll sort of gradually sort of come together into, more of a general MCU feel, if that makes any sense.
No, it does.
So,
it does.
but I mean, the fact that it does work the way it does, the fact that it does stand up, I really do think that's pretty impressive.
I agree. I'm curious to see where he would have gone if he had stayed on as directors, but I'm not complaining about his loss with the sequels, but we'll get to that.
Yeah.
So, okay, Joe, it's that time. What did you give it?
if you asked me a couple days ago, I probably would have given it a 7, but I'm going to give it an 8. I really do feel like it's a pretty top-notch effort. And again, like I said, the way to try to there was a lot to balance in this film. There was a lot of things. I almost feel like this is sort of more akin to, when we talk about the earlier Spider-Mans, the first Sam Raimi, and I always said that he had a lot to do in that film to get this kid from high school to becoming Spider-Man, to bringing in the Green Goblin, to the Daily Bugle and Mary Jane, and get all of these things together in one coherent, whereas later on, Spider-Man Homecoming doesn't have to do all that, and it can sort of take its time and play around a little bit. Right. This early Captain America has a lot of the same duties. It has to, we need Bucky, we need the original costume, we need sock old Adolf on the jaw, we need a lot of that stuff, and gradually get him to where he becomes the actual super soldier and the Red Skull. So there was a lot going on here. And I really do feel like he really makes it look easy in a lot of ways too. The way he sort of takes Captain America down that road, from the super soldier serum to Steve Rogers before the super soldier serum, then the actual experiment, then again being more of they call him a chorus girl, buy bonds and all that sort of stuff, and to getting him back in the war, where he's actually fighting and doing things. There really is a great progression in this film, and there was a lot to sort of shove in there. And I love that they did it. I love that they had the original shield. The original costume. That first costume looks like it's made out of pajamas or whatever. So yeah, I really have to hand it to this film. And there was, like I said, there was a lot that I wasn't crazy about, and there was part of it. There's, in some ways, it does sort of leave you with a taste of, just a solid B minus effort. But really, when you think about it, there's a lot going on, and like I said, if I can watch it today and enjoy it more now, I think, than I did originally, that says something. I really do feel like they really hit all the marks.
I agree wholeheartedly, and in fact, I also gave it an 8, and you're right. Back when it first came out, I was kind of questionable about it myself. I thought, okay, it was a solid effort, it was a good introduction to the character, but I didn't feel like it actually said anything. It kind of feels like there's much more weight to this movie now than there was then.
Yeah, oddly.
And I don't think oddly at all. I think that we have grown with this. This character has grown with. This is the really odd part, actually, if you think about it. The character of Captain America has grown and yet stayed true to himself. He's not the Cap that walked into that place in Brooklyn to get those injections in the Vitarays anymore. He's not the same person. But his core has not wavered, no matter how many films have gone by. And there's been some nasty stuff that's happened in a couple of movies.
Yeah.
And you can appreciate that. And it goes back to when you watch this again, it's like, oh, of course. Now it makes... This whole movie is highlighted even higher because of... not only the subsequent movies being so well done, but because of the quality of this movie. Johnston, I think he kind of got the shaft, if you ask me. He did something that every single person predicted would not happen. Let's turn the clocks back to 2011 when this came out, okay? Iron Man had been a surprise hit, and it was a surprise hit. Everybody laughed at the idea of Marvel financing their own movies and doing it themselves. Laughed at the idea that this drug addict jerk, Robert Downey Jr., could lead a movie like this. Okay? And as time has gone, I swear to you, it's like everybody, like people make fun of comic book movies now that basically Marvel is the benchmark for, and yet they always forget how much they underestimated not only the appeal of these characters, but in Marvel's ability to make them appealing both to the core, to the people who kept them alive for all these years, but to introduce them to a new generation of people and have them have almost as much of an understanding of them as the core. And this movie is a solid demonstration as to how you do it. Can you do a comic book adaptation straightforward? No, probably not. There's a lot of things that you can't necessarily easily translate on screen. But if you're gonna do it, this is an example of how you do it. Like Superman the movie before it.
Yeah.
To me, Cap is analogous to Superman the movie, the original Christopher Reeve Superman movie, because it was a time of it came out at a time of cynicism. Nobody really actually believed it. Oh my God, the budget was so high. You know, there was a lot of things said about the Superman movie that people kind of made fun of, and now it's the benchmark.
Yeah.
And to me, Cap is the 21st century benchmark as to how comic book movies should be.
I'll agree with that.
So yeah,
an
8. I kind of feel like I'm talking myself into a 9, frankly.
Right.
But I'm going to stick to an 8. This movie, and yes, fine. I admit it. I'm a Cap fan. I granted, my bigger favorites are Batman and Wolverine. 100%. Those are my 2 bigger favorites, and one of the reasons why I loved Logan so much. But Cap was always in my top 5. I would say probably number 3. Easily number 3. And I just enjoyed the purity and the genuineness of the character.
Yes.
All right. So, who asked you, Joe?
I was debating on taking this back, but when I first saw it, I had this was sort of the vibe that I got. I'm going to stick with it now. The blue laser beams. It's not that. Again, like I said, watching it now and watching how this film fits in the bigger MCU, it does make much more sense. And I can really give it a pass. But I still sort of say to myself that when I first saw it, it's probably what really made me kind of feel like they were losing their nerve. They were trying to get a little too flashy and a little too like guys, we have a special effects budget, let's do something. You know, so they throw some laser beams in there, and I kind of felt like it was the one thing that kind of took me out just a little bit.
Sharks with laser beams.
Yeah, so again, I understand why it's there, and I'm not saying that it's not logical because it does work in the bigger scheme of everything. In fact, it probably works a little too well. But again, I was enjoying the period piece of this. The overall style, and I did feel that kind of took me out a little bit, so I'll go with that. But it's a minor grumble.
I can feel that, man. I really, really can. You know, one of the things that actually is still good about this movie is that even with that little grumble, it still stands on its own feet.
Agreed.
And that's something that some comic book movies just don't get.
Yeah.
My Who Asked You, honestly, the story was just too safe. And I feel it more now when you see the subsequent Cap movies. You know, this was very, very paint by numbers, and I understand why they had to do it, and I get it, but it's still the weakest part of the entire movie. You have a solid cast. You've got great special effects. You've got an amazing character that has been brought to life. And I try to think of the weakness of this movie as I'm watching, because it's like I can't give it a 10 because it's not a 10. There's obviously some problems with it. But I go back to story. I say to myself, you know what? That whole montage thing just feels added. It doesn't feel it doesn't feel organic to the story that they had started to tell. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, they were building up, okay, this is going pretty good. Yes, okay, they got the conflict, so on and so forth there. And, of course, you had the typical, Three's Company moment of, wait, Peggy, she was kissing me. It's like, I don't want to hear it. I'm going to shoot you with the gun, with your new shield up. It's like, it's been done to death. Can't people just talk?
Yeah.
So it's not the strongest plot. And I'm going to just go with that they were trying cautiously to introduce the world to Captain America, and this was the best that they could come up with. But it's still a weak story. Even for a superhero origin movie, it's still just the weakest part of it. And honestly, even with the weak story, the story elements that they did switch in there do pay off later in the series. So trust me, this is a minor complaint that I make.
Right.
For your consideration, Chris Evans.
There you go.
Chris Evans, remember earlier I said how this movie is analogous to Superman the movie?
Yes.
Chris Evans is to Captain America what Christopher Reeve is to Superman. Any actor that takes this part after him will never compare. as far as I'm concerned. The man shocked the ever-living hell out of me. I thought it was just some good-looking hunk that's just going to, not do it. But the man brings passion to the role. He not only acts with his whole body, but with his eyes. There's a softness and a gentleness in it, and then a firmness when he needs to be. And the way he uses his voice to convey how he feels about freedom and rights and everything like that, you just believe it, man.
Yeah.
I look at Cap there, and I say to him, he walks out of that thing the first time, and he's standing tall, and Peggy's all verklempt and everything like that, because, man, those are some muscles and everything like that. And I say to myself, man, run for president. Run for frickin' president.
Right.
I would vote you in a heartbeat.
I love the quick little shot when Peggy's arm goes out like she wants to touch him, but she pulls herself back.
Yeah.
I love that. Like, you blink and you miss it, but it was really great.
I think that was an improv too. I think she just did that, during the scene.
Okay.
I don't think that was actually in the script.
Nice.
But
yeah, I'm gonna agree wholeheartedly with you too. And again, I did not have high hopes for Chris Evans when they named him. Again, only because of the Fantastic Four, and I didn't think he could pull it off, but he really did. He was really aces. And again, I think he goes on to even do it better in subsequent films.
oh yeah, that's the thing. This is like a planting a seed level of acting.
Yes.
That pays off every single time he comes back.
Agreed.
And how about you? What's your for-year consideration?
Do you ever get so focused on something and you can hear yourself saying it over and over to the point you start to annoy yourself? I am going to go with the costume.
I'm not going to hold that against you, dude. Each of the costumes was damn good.
Yeah, this was one of those, again, you're doing Captain America, you got to go full on with the costume. And they did it in a way that completely works with the characters. Again, and I mean, if you think about it, there are several incarnations of the costume in this. You get the first, boom, head to toe, red, white, and blue, where he's on stage, and it's the full blown Captain America costume, just like it's drawn. I mean, the way they can even do it, the way it's drawn in those early comics, was so spot on. Then you get that sort of phase 2 costume, where it's sort of a mixture of that with the leather jackets, with the boots, with the helmet, and the whole spiel. Really just sort of works great. Like, really does work perfectly. Then again, you go on to the full-blown red, white, and blue, but again, in a way, like that iconic shot where they kick the door and it's him shooting up and the smoke in the background. The commandos are behind him.
Yep.
Such an iconic shot. Such a great, that's it. But he's got the costume. And again, they make it functional. It works. I mean, they do it in a way, like the stripes were actually these little belts, but I thought, again, that really sort of worked the way they did it. I didn't think I was going to like that because I thought they're going too much function. But no, it full-blown worked. I mean, and it works so well that when they do the Winter Soldier, he actually goes back in the end to this costume as opposed to grabbing what he had in the Avengers.
That's right.
I mean, the Avengers, they try to update it, but I always felt that it really looked kind of goofy in the Avengers. This one, they nail it. They really get it right. And I thought that was just, again, like I said, when you do the costume right, it shows your belief in this character. It means that you're not apologizing for anything. It shows a genuine integrity, and I like I said, it goes a long way. I mean, the whole movie is really great, and I really wanted to. I mean, I was really debating on giving this to Joe Johnston because, again, I love how the film works as a period film, and he's so good at that. But if I'm going to pick out just one element and pluck it out and say, look at this, look how they got it right, it's that costume.
I can't disagree with you, man. I loved everything about the costume. And I agree with you. The costume did look a little bit weaker in the first Avengers movie. But there's almost an explanation for that. And we're actually going to cover the Avengers movies later this year as we get closer to Infinity War.
Yeah.
So we'll probably go through it then. But they actually do have an explanation as to why it would look so flashy, so to speak.
Well, I mean, this is one person's interpretation of the earlier costume, and so
yeah. But no, honestly, I can't complain. I can't complain about a lot of this movie. Even the complaint that I made earlier seems like minor and almost nitpicky.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Maybe we liked it a lot more than we thought. But no, I was so happy to revisit this movie again. If it's on, I watch it. I always do. I enjoy it. There's joy. There's joy to be had in this movie.
Yeah.
Yes, there's seriousness. Yes, when Bucky buys it, we think. When Bucky buys it, you can like feel the pain coming from Steve as he's going down and everything.
Yeah.
I did. His loss when he realizes that he'll never be able to see Peggy is tangible.
Yeah,
I mean, you can almost reach out. I had, for God's sakes, I had a date. 3 little words. I had a date.
Yeah.
Sounds like a normal thing. It's got to be one of the saddest lines spoken in the MCU so far.
Yep. Incidentally, that scene with Nick Fury at the end, there's a longer cut of that where there's a lot more discussion about, to bring him up to speed and what's going on and how the world has changed or whatever. And then it sort of ends off on, you're going to be okay? Well, yeah, I had a date.
Yeah.
The fact that they truncated that and just left it at that, they just wanted to focus on the whole, I had a date, melancholy, moment was really good. It really shows how powerful that little moment right there is.
Oh yeah, it's and you know what? It's nice sometimes. Sometimes you say to yourself, "I want a little extra," and then sometimes you say to yourself, "You know what? Restraint is nice." And that's a case because I've seen the scene you're talking about. I've seen the full version, and I was like, "Yeah, okay, that was nice," but you know what? I kind of like the restraint more than I did the full info dump, so to speak.
At ease, soldier.
Look, I'm sorry about that little show back there, but we thought it best to break it to you slowly.
Break what?
You've been asleep, Cap, for almost 70 years. You gonna be okay?
Yeah, I had a date.
We salute you, Cap.
There you go. You and Bucky and the Howling Commandos, well done. Again, for a first outing as Captain America, it really does hit it on the head. It's a great film. It's a great film to start off on. I mean, it's a great film as our springboard into the Captain Americas and then Black Panther. And like you said, later in the year, we're going to be doing the Avengers and the Infinity War. Nice one to kick us off.
I agree. I was very pleased that we finally got to this. I mean, and meaning no offense, as much as I loved the movie last week, it's nice to have something light to watch this week, for God's sake.
I was going to say the same thing, but I agree. You're right. You're absolutely right.
I mean, I loved Mother, don't get me wrong, but man, this was just like, oh, thank you, God.
Right. Exactly. Let's get back to socking old Adolf on the jaw. That's what I need this week.
The man with the plan. But speaking of the man with the plan, there's more to the story. And God, people, it's only going to get better. Mm-hmm. Because next week, we will review Captain America, the Winter Soldier.
I agree. Who would have thunk it? Who would have thunk it that the next one was going to get even better? And they really do bring this character, and they do right by Captain America in these films.
I agree. I feel like, and again, I'm going to go back and say it again. I'm giving the credit to the writers. The fact that they had the same writers across all 3 movies makes the difference.
Agreed.
But we will discuss that more in depth next week when we're back for Winter Soldier. Then we're going to come back with Civil War. Now that's going to be an interesting one to review.
Sure is.
Of all the Caps. And then we follow it up with Black Panther. And is the next couple of weeks going to be exciting, ladies and gentlemen?
Good year coming.
Indeed. So, for my behalf, ladies and gentlemen, have a great night. My man, always a pleasure to talk with you about movies, sir.
Good episode, sir, and I will see you next week. Thanks for listening to the Reviews Without Remorse podcast with Joe and Dave. Join us here every Thursday for a new episode. And be sure to check out the Reviews Without Remorse channel on YouTube and VidMe for spoiler-free reviews of new releases, as well as in-depth discussions of current and classic cinema. If you enjoy this podcast, please consider becoming a patron. You can find our page at patreon.com. As little as $1 a month goes a long way. All clips in this podcast are used for commentary and critique, and is considered fair use. No copyright infringement is intended.